Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Sword. We've been out a few days. I know we had some technical difficulties. We got it set back up, and there's a lot to talk about, starting with last night's game and Spencer Strider. And I always like to come up here and talk about vindication. Like, it's nice when you say something that everyone else isn't really saying and you get proven right. But I am not happy about being proven right in this situation. But I think we can all agree that Spencer Strider's velocity is a problem. It is a problem. And everyone was like, oh, it's just going to take a couple starts. You go look, and Eno Saris did an entire thing on it. 4 starts after your UCL injury. Like, you usually have a pretty good idea of where someone's going to sit with his velocity. So maybe it gets better. I think in a year or two, we could be looking at the internal brace route is definitely new. Only 15 pitchers, 13 or so major league pitchers have even undergone it. So there's a lot of waters that we're testing fresh. But as we sit here today, as far as winning baseball games right now, you can't tell me that velocity isn't a major issue, because when he misses, it gets smoked. He's not missing. I think he had 1 whiff yesterday on his fastball. That's not Spencer Strider. It's not the same pitcher.
Yeah, he had a streak of an insane amount of games where he had at least 9 or more whiffs, including the past 3 starts. And I think that streak was broken.
But I'm talking strictly on the fastball.
Yeah, well, I mean, the speed is apparent in the slider too. The same article that you're talking about. Eno Saris had that perfect slider. Miles per hour is 85, I think, or 84, and Strider is sitting just under it right now. And before the surgery, he was sitting just over it, which is kind of the mark of, like, it's either a good or a bad slider. So it's not just his fastball. Even if that does set up his other offerings, his slider is still, a couple of ticks slower, and it is making a big deal. So I think the notion I keep going back to, and this is, what you're talking about, the small picture, not big picture in terms of who Spencer Strider is going to be over the course, but small picture. Anthopoulos literally said, we're getting Strider back. And he kind of equated replacing Max Fried with Spencer Strider and Grant Holmes with Charlie Morton with Grant Holmes. And he was right on the I mean, great call on Grant Holmes. I know there's still a lot of season left, and he hasn't pitched a full season's worth of starts, in a very, very long time. So there's still, time for that to sour. But in terms of the Spencer Strider replacing Max Fried thing, at least in 2025, gross oversight. And this isn't even considering what Fried is doing right now in New York, which is a sub-2 RA. Him and Skubal are right there neck and neck for the AL Cy Young. But let's just even go back to last year, where Fried was uncharacteristically bad. And I say bad, meaning he still had a 3.2 ERA, but that's bad for him. Strider's not even close to that version of Max Fried. So Anthopoulos, to go into this season, and while we did, that you can't foresee the AJ Smith-Shawver injury, I think that he doesn't deserve as much grace with Ronaldo Lopez's injury. I feel like everybody saw the writing on that wall, especially with the multiple stints last year on the IL with fatigue. I think we all almost saw it coming, but like this one in particular is just gross oversight. I mean, that's not to say that Max Fried is going to be this exact pitcher the entire time he is in there in that 8-year deal, and Strider is going to be this guy across his 7-year or 6-year deal, whatever it is. But like right now, and all I'm saying is Anthopoulos' words is he was replacing in his mind in the rotation what Fried gave him last year with what Strider gave him this year. And again, he can, come about. The season is not over. I'm sure he will improve to a certain extent. But right now, the guy's supporting a 5 ERA, or damn near close to it.
And damn near close to 6.
Okay. And last year, Fried had a bad year, and he had a 3.2. Once again, this is one of those instances where we're looking at Anthopoulos and thinking, what the hell were you doing this offseason, man?
Yeah, there's so many ways that you could equate this. The one I think that's super intriguing, and I kind of mentioned it, was the internal brace surgery. Like, well, this surgery is brand new. Like, what is, like, because like you haven't seen Shohei Ohtani, who infamously had it. I believe someone from the AJC that just is new there. I don't know her name, so I'm sorry. But she deserves credit for this. She covered the Georgia Bulldogs as well. One of their pitchers had it as well, and he really struggled with velocity and fatigue and stuff like that. And then I think Brady Penn of 680 The Fan tweeted out that from his research, he can only find 13 pitchers. 4 of them haven't pitched, and the rest of the combined ERAs over 617 innings or something like that is like a 5 ERA. So not good results for this surgery. Of course, it does get you back faster, and there's still a lot of time over these respective careers, but you kind of wonder, is it going to take more to build up off this? So it's really new. Like that part's super intriguing. This is kind of like a test subject, but you don't want to be talking about Spencer Strider, the guy who's supposed to be your ace of your staff, as a guinea pig in this situation. But that is what it kind of feels like.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel good. Like I don't think, and it's more than just that. I mean, it's the entire encompass, his entire repertoire, his demeanor on the mound, like everything that made Spencer Strider is gone. Like, I'm not saying he can't refine it, but right now, like you said, winning games, this guy's a 4-star. Like Grant Holmes gives us a better chance right now. And I think we'll see. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be a hot take artist, but like, we'll see what he keeps giving us. Elder might be a better, I'm not trying to be this guy who's like, oh, Strider's cooked. I made some jokes on Twitter and people are like, oh, well, look at their respective. Guys, let's just look at what they're giving the team right now. Strider is at best our 4th starter, at best.
Well, dude, I firmly believe this. If AJ Smith-Shawver didn't get injured, Spencer Strider would be in AAA for Bryce Elder. Like, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Like, I think right now, what Bryce Elder gives you as a pitcher, he knows his stuff. Like, he knows he ain't throwing at 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. He knows he's throwing at 91, 92, and he's got to get ground balls and stuff like that. Spencer Strider has to completely reform. He has to do one of 2 things. He better get that velocity back, or he has to completely reform himself as a pitcher. This was a guy that could miss middle with 99, and you couldn't hit it. Like, that. This is a totally different scenario, and this is what I was talking about when the sim game was happening, when the spring training starts were happening, and everyone would be like, hey, he'll get better. Yes, I do. I am not going to bet against Spencer Strider because the work ethic is unmatched, and he could get stronger in the future. But right now, this season, which is what I was trying to get through to everyone, I don't think he's going to help the team as much as people think. And now we're seeing that not only is he not helping the team, he's hurting the team.
He's hurting the team. I mean, he went out there and the Braves had a nice little rally, I think maybe in the 4th inning, and we got it to a 1-run game. And then he goes out there and gives up another bomb.
500 feet, 440 feet.
Corbin Carroll bomb. And it's like that right there. See, and I know that, we should talk about the relievers and Snicker's decision there. And that could have saved the game as well. But like that moment right there is so deflating to a lineup that is struggling so bad. And it finally gets something going, whether it's a home run or stringing a couple of hits, some being lucky, some being not, and an error to Bode. Like, you get that blow, and it's like, it's a sinking feeling because the fan base isn't the only one. Those guys are humans.
I mean, I was sitting there, and I was like, I don't even know why he's coming back out into the game. And then he gives up that 440-foot homer. And I understand you want him to go out there and build his pitch count and stuff like that, but we're past the point where we can start being like, and we'll talk about this later in the show. Like, it's time to start focusing on winning games and getting creative and doing things and treating games like they're almost playoff games. And I know it's June and we shouldn't be talking like this, but we have no other choice but to talk like this, but to think like this, but to think, hey, is that offense going to be more than this guy's defense? Like, it might look stupid out there, but guess what? And that's a good segue because that's what I want to talk about next. I am pounding the table. I am not going to stop. I am relentless. Drake Baldwin will play left field for the Atlanta Braves this season. They don't have a choice. I am not going to stop pounding the table for the Atlanta Braves using Drake Baldwin in left field, and there's a multitude of reasons why I believe it makes a lot of sense. For starters, if these guys are going to coexist, you cannot have them both. Like, either one of them has to get traded or one of them has to learn a new position. So if you're long-term thinking about these two guys, one of them's going to have to do it. And I know you don't want to do it in the middle of the season. And I know Alex Anthopoulos laughed in my face and shut me down and said, hey, we haven't even considered it. Well, you better start considering it, because back then when he said that stuff, the Braves were what? Making their run. They had the best stretch of baseball that they've had all season. They were only 5 games back. You still have jerks, bro. Now you've gone 3-9 since then. Now you're 10 games back of not one, but 2 teams in the defense. And at that time when he said that, Alex Verdugo and Eli White were performing very above replacement level. Since then, 16 games, Eli White has a 382 OPS. 21 games, Alex Verdugo has a 512 OPS. The left field is now a complete and total black hole, and there's no amount of defense that's going to make up for these guys being offensive zeros. And it's time for the Braves to just embrace the fact that this is going to be a weird year. Let's go put them out in left field. And don't tell me that they can't do it. Don't give me that BS that they can't. I watched Evan Gattis play left field in the playoffs for this team. Chipper Jones, Austin Riley played left field. William Contreras dipped his toes in there. And the Braves weren't even that desperate. They just went out there and experimented with it. They're so much more desperate now than they were back then. Freddie Freeman played not left field, third base for this team. This happens every single year on every single team. So the days of, and I understand, you just want to ease Drake Baldwin into things. You don't want to add too much to his plate. He's just a rookie. Hey, that's a luxury that you can do when you're not 27-32 and 10 games back in the division. When you're in this situation right now, this is where you get creative. Drake Baldwin needs to play left field for the Atlanta Braves. And if they don't do it, it's just another sign of Alex Anthopoulos and his incompetence as a general manager.
I could see both sides of the coin because I understand the sentiment that's like we're banging our heads against the wall. This is going on. It feels like half a decade where one corner of the outfield, and it's really always been left field, it's just a black hole. It's a familiar territory. And it's always just been a couple of journeymen, a couple of, nobodies who come in and, give you about 2 weeks to a month of good play. And we think maybe, could we stretch it out? Could we do this? Could we do that? And then it's never been, it's something with the Atlanta Braves in left field, whether it's just Jerks and Profar getting popped for PEDs or, these, quote unquote unsung heroes just flaming out and ripping our hearts out from under us. Like it's one thing or another with the left field. And I will say, I can understand Braves fans. I can understand your sentiment that like, hey, enough is enough. We got to get our best. Like the reason why we're losing isn't because of, pitching. And while it might happen occasionally where the bullpen blows a game or the pitching staff like Strider doesn't really give the lineup a chance, more often than not, it's the lineup. And if you're wanting to win more games over the course of an entire season, you're going to give up a little defense. And first of all, the rest of the defense is probably good enough to pick up that struggling left fielder. Mike Harris is a Gold Glove center fielder. He can cover 2/3 of that outfield probably pretty easily. And then you ask maybe Ronald to have a shade over. Like there are ways to combat this. And then on the flip side of things, I do understand, the Braves point of view where it's like, hey, he's a rookie. And like, I think you don't want to put too much on his plate because learning the catcher position is incredibly difficult. And, you don't want to stunt that growth. You don't want to stunt long-term growth, which, by the way, he's made unbelievable strides. Like when I said, side note, a month ago or whatever I said, he's better than William Contreras at that point. It's not even close. It's not even close. Drake Baldwin is by far and away better than William Contreras was at this point in their respective careers. Neither here nor there. He's made substantial strides in that case. Now you could say that's a reason to put him in left field because he can come back and he won't miss a beat. But also I can understand that like, you don't want to sacrifice long-term for the short term. And I think that is my biggest point when we get to maybe we talk about trading one of these guys or anything like that is like the short term cannot be sacrificed for the overall long term. And then there's the argument of like, we've been doing the long-term thing for a long time. Maybe it is time we do the short-term thing. But I think that this is not going to be a conversation that ever goes away. And it's a conversation where some Braves fans might not like it. But guess who's going to be out there every single damn day when he returns from suspension?
Yeah, I think Jerks and Profar coming back is probably the last maybe domino that like hasn't fallen yet that prevents them from having this conversation. Frankly, I don't know how this isn't. I know he said we haven't had a conversation. How have you not had a conversation? Everyone's watching what we're watching. Like the left field is a total mess. And stop throwing out Alex Verdugo and Eli White and trying to call them, roses when they're pooping in my face. Like this is an absolute joke watching them play every day. They're borderline not even major leaguers. Like there's a reason Alex Verdugo had to sign a minor league contract. There's a reason Eli White is 30 years old and had 200 plate appearances coming into the season. Like don't sit here and tell me that Drake Baldwin's offense alone will make up for any defensive issues that he has because those guys are so damn bad offensively. And I understand.
Yeah, I agree that there is a nerd somewhere in the organization that can compute the platoon of Eli White and Alex Verdugo and what they provide positively defensively and what they provide negatively offensively, and how that compares to what we could see, at least projection wise. You could. It's not like Drake Baldwin was some fat, slow catcher. Like, kid's an athlete that, like, you see him beating out infield hits.
This is what I'm saying.
Like he is not a slow piece of chubby. Like, he's way more athletic than Shawn Murphy. Way more.
And Marcell Ozuna. And not maybe not Jorge Soler, but what if Drake Baldwin goes out there and has no problem?
I don't know. I don't think that's crazy to say.
But what if he goes out there and has no problem?
And he's got a cannon for an arm. Like, Jorge Soler had a minor league arm. I mean, the kid, like,
let's not act like left fielders across like Eddie Rosario was in the Gold Glove race.
You see what Nimmo did last night against the Dodgers?
Eddie Rosario was in the Gold Glove race in the National League when he was playing for us. And that guy's a below average. Like, let's not act like there's a bunch of left fielders out here balling. I mean, we have Juan Soto still trying to play right field. Like, give me a break. Like, stop trying to act like this is such an abomination that we could never do it. The only case that I will listen to is the fact that you don't want to add too much to his plate. But I will argue, my point is that you're 27-32. Like, the days of easing this up. And frankly, I think we're all sitting here saying, I trust Drake Baldwin and his mental acumen and who he is as a baseball player to adjust and be able to still handle everything. Maybe we should be putting more on this kid's plate because he's been the best player on the damn baseball team and he's not playing every day.
Yeah.
Maybe we should put more on his plate because he's the only guy doing his job.
It's hard to argue. It really is hard to argue. I want to say him defensively.
Unbelievable.
Hat tip. I mean,
Eddie Perez, like,
game one of the Arizona. I mean, he had such an and that's the thing. Like, I don't know what his WAR went up, but it probably went up a tick or two, like 2/10, 3/10 from that game alone. 2 pickoffs, a home run to break up a perfect game. Also getting on base a second. Like, there were so many instances, and this is all the way. And I'm sure we'll talk about him and Shawn Murphy and whatever. Maybe we'll talk about it right now, but it sucks for Shawn Murphy. It really does. I feel for the guy as, like, the Shawn Murphy defender, or one of them, at least on social media. Yeah. I feel for the guy. I really do.
Yeah.
Because it sucks.
I think that is a good segue into, because we do have to talk about it. If they're not going to, and this is my whole point, if they're not going to try Drake Baldwin in left field, not just this year, but next year as well, that's not in the plan, which is why we haven't had a conversation about this, like, that you're saying to the media, makes no sense. Like, this is a long-term issue. Like, you have 2 top 5 catchers and they cannot just sit here and play every other day. Like, that's a waste of resources, especially when you're not going to go spend money in the offseason. So the fact that we've never talked about it, that's BS. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. You better be thinking about it as the general manager. You should be considering everything. We'll talk about Shawn Murphy and his future coming up after the break. If the Braves are not going to let Drake Baldwin learn another position, and the only really position that he could realistically learn is left field, or if he just wants to be a full-time DH, but I still think you're wasting, his defense behind the plate, Shawn Murphy's got to go. And you said it right. You said it a few weeks ago. You wrote on a piece at SportsTalkATL.com. Go check out the site, please. Shawn Murphy's got dealt a incredibly raw deal. And there's really, he's playing good baseball. I mean, he's an above average defensive catcher.
Back at his all-star caliber.
Yeah, I mean, he is an all-star caliber, borderline top 5 catcher. And if he goes on a hot streak, he's up there with the top 3 catchers. Like, it's like you got Cal Raleigh, Will Smith, William Contreras. He can get into that thing when he's playing his best. I mean, he's playing great baseball. There's no reason that he shouldn't be playing every day. But if they're not going to have Drake Baldwin learn a new position, you can't have Drake Baldwin sitting on the bench because he is the best offensive player not named Ronald Acuna Jr. And he's the top prospect. He's got all the hype. Like, he is, like, I think we can all admit, like, he's just really, really damn good. And sometimes a kid just comes in and he's better than you. And you got to make a decision. So if they're not going to let him learn another position, I don't see any other direction for them to go to move Shawn Murphy. And the earlier that happens, really, the better, because there's a lot of holes on this roster.
I go back to, you don't want to make a short-term reaction that can impact the long-term of this baseball team. Like, having one top 5 catcher is a luxury. Having 2 is almost unheard of. It's not like that does not happen, and it keeps happening to the Atlanta Braves. And I think that while everybody's concern about 2025 is relevant and valid, and we all want to win. And listen, I'm watching every single damn game, guys. I'm not just out here trying to, minimize your feelings. I think my fiance is tired of me watching the Braves. She's like, dude, you are getting annoying. Like, please stop. I'm banging my head against the wall every single night. I'm in the trenches with you guys, but we need to table this discussion for after the season, because the DH possibility is very real. Marcell Ozuna is going to be 35 years old. He's in the final year of his contract. While he's been a beloved character,
dealing with a torn hip.
Yeah. While he's being beloved in the clubhouse and now in Braves country after coming through some real bad stuff, it might be hard to let him go and see him sign with but the chances are that he keeps up this production through whatever contract he ends up signing is not enough to warrant to trade one of these guys who is younger. And I think that you can obviously just carry 3 catchers, and you can have Drake Baldwin and I will say, what makes this conversation even harder is what I was saying earlier about Drake Baldwin's defense now. Like, and again, small sample size, so we have to, with a grain of salt, but we all believe that Drake Baldwin is obviously for real. Like, he is going to regress some, but it is not going to be enough to suggest that Shawn Murphy is taking 2/3 of all starts behind the plate while Drake Baldwin just sits on the bench. Drake Baldwin's defense is the reason why this is getting hard. We all knew the stick was for real. We said this before the season even started. His stick was always major league caliber. It was the defense, which is an unthought of part among a lot of fans because it's not sexy. It's these things that, we don't see on a box score or anything like that. Now, Drake Baldwin has made substantial strides in 1/3 of a season, while not getting regular playing time up until the past month or so, 3 weeks. That is what's most impressive, but it's still a situation where we are not maximizing both talents in the short term, and that is an issue. But the answer isn't to trade one of them, I think, unless obviously there's a scenario where it's a long-term shortstop. It's a viable shortstop or a frontline starter of sorts. But right now, you don't want to make a decision to, for the short term that's going to impact the long term of the situation. This is a discussion that must be tabled in the off. Like, Marcell Ozuna undergoes a knife in the offseason. That's not something a lot of 35-year-olds can come back from.
Let's take Marcell Ozuna out of the picture, because I disagree purely on the front that I don't think Drake Baldwin would be a good DH. But I think you get your best value with him behind the plate, because that's where you really take advantage of his offense when you're comparing catchers and stuff like that. And Shawn Murphy's fantastic defensively, and he's above average hitting catcher. But using any of them in the DH, you can go find another Marcell Ozuna for cheap. You can go find another DH that's going to hit as well as Shawn Murphy for cheap. You can do that. So
I think Drake Baldwin is,
but I just think
Drake Baldwin would be an elite DH.
Yeah, but why would you use him as a DH? Use him as a catcher. You can find guys that can hit balls and DH that are cheap. Like Marcell Ozuna is not expensive. Those things are easy to find. What's not
$16 million
what's not easy to find is Shawn Murphy or Drake Baldwin. And their value on the trade market, what you can get in return, would be much greater than just, the amount of money you're going to have to spend on a DH. So I think you can get.
But I would argue that having a guy like that at catcher every single night, just not 2/3 of the night, is more valuable.
To me, I just think you can find
think if the trade is right, if the price is right, I'm all for it. But I don't see there is not a clear and obvious trade.
There's nothing yet. We haven't seen what's coming out, but I can tell you for a fact, and there's some people that believe Shawn Murphy doesn't have any trade value.
They're stupid.
You will get a ton. An absolute haul for Shawn Murphy. The guy's under contract for 5 years and has been a top 5 catcher in baseball every season, basically of his entire career, except for one in 2024. And we know that the oblique had a thing, and he didn't play a ton of games, and injuries happen. When he is healthy, he is one of the better catchers in the game. And there will be teams calling nonstop at the trade deadline in the offseason, especially if this continues with Drake Baldwin. The good news is we still have 2 months to figure it out.
And I just think tabling it to the Because, again, how many times have we seen Jason Hayward is a good example of a kid that we thought was going to take this league by the storm. And I don't want to
have to think that far. You can think Michael Harris.
Michael Harris is a perfect example where it's like, yes, Drake Baldwin is, that guy, that dude right now, like literally the front runner for the rookie of the year. All of that stuff and is all fine and dandy. But let's also acknowledge the track record of Shawn Murphy. It is worth, debating. And I don't think I would rather not trade either of them than, either move either of them at this year's trade deadline. I think if a move came, it has to wait until the offseason until you see what you've got at least in Ozuna.
It obviously depends what comes through the telephone.
That's fair. Okay, this is all caveat. If there's a trade that blows you away, Alex Anthopoulos,
I mean, if there's somehow they can get a shortstop that they believe can be the shortstop of the future, that's the biggest hole for this franchise because I cannot watch love Nick Allen, man. Just a little
with the glove.
Just a little dorky guy out there. Just
what the worst part about all this is? Like, we wouldn't even be talking about Nick Allen if Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, and Michael Harris would get their asses out of their head out of their asses.
We wouldn't be talking about any of this.
No,
but we are. Yeah. We are, and unfortunately, this has been happening for too long to ignore. And when you have a surplus at a position, you got holes at other. Sometimes you got to make the difficult decision. I'm not for or against it, but I understand arguments either way. It's been a minute since we've been with you guys, and I think last Friday there were some Kyle Pittz trade rumors. Jordan Schultz and then Jeremy Fowler followed it up with not only are the Falcons entertaining offers, especially if they can get a day 2 pick, but Kyle Pittz would be open to a move, looking at the roster, knowing he's going to be the 4th option at best behind Bijan Drake and Darnell Mooney, and knowing that he's in a contract year. What do you make of this? Do you think Kyle Pittz is going to be on the roster to start the season?
Yeah, I do. I do, because I don't think somebody's going to, give the Falcons enough to warrant for them.
What is enough?
A day 2 pick, a 2nd or 3rd,
like if a 4th rounder,
I don't think the Falcons would.
Would you?
No. You know where I stand on this.
To me,
I got to see this thing through. I'm stubborn enough to not admit when I'm wrong. The sunk cost fallacy is not in my vocabulary. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I got to see this thing through. I got to see it through with Michael Penix and at least know for sure, hey, I really screwed the pooch here. Like, I just can't get behind, him flourishing with somebody else. Like, I can't see it. Like, I got to see it. I got to break up with my girl before I got to see it crash and burn before I pull I'm going down with the ship. I'm going down with the ship.
I think my line is a 4th rounder. I think if you can get 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, I'd pull the trigger. Obviously, you'd have to figure out something to do at tight end. You'd have to have plans in place to do there. But you do get $12 million.
Charlie Warner.
You do get $12 million.
He outsnapped Kyle Pitts over the last 5 or 6 games.
Exactly. And the people that are saying that Kyle Pitts is all of a sudden Michael Penix is going to change him. I mean, look at those 3 games. He had 66 yards receiving. Like, he wasn't a part of the offense.
Caught his first touchdown.
Yeah, he did catch his first touchdown. He also calls his first interception. Yeah, so it was a very
bang, baby. That's the story of Kyle Pitts.
I mean, it was very exactly like it was the same Kyle Pitts that we've seen with anyone else. And I think if you think Michael Penix is the guy, for the people that are saying, oh, we don't want to take away weapons, I'm like, guys, if he can't do it without Kyle Pitts, I don't think we got our guy. Like,
there's more than enough weapons.
There are more than enough weapons. You have an offensive coordinator that you trust. He's entering his 2nd season. Like, he's going to have success with or without Kyle
I'm not
Pitts.
Keeping Kyle Pitts solely because I think that he's the reason Michael Penix succeeds or fails. I'm keeping Kyle Pitts because I think that
you're hanging on to rookie.
I'm hanging on to 2021 Kyle Pitts. I really am.
But I think my biggest fear, right, is the Vic Beasley fiasco. I like to refer to Kyle Pitts as the offensive Vic Beasley because I think he's lazy and I think his work ethic lacks a lot to be great in this league. Because as we talk about all the time, that's the difference. And when you watch on Sundays, he looks like he's got
a bunch of coddlers on this Falcons coaching staff.
It looks like he hasn't, gone out there and practiced very hard. When you look at his routes, especially compared to the kind of routes that he's running in Florida, like, how has he gotten worse at route running since he's been in the league?
Knee injury.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it. And
maybe it's just a lingering knee issue.
And injuries are part of the problem.
And Albert Breer just reported that he doesn't think that it's going to be a trade, but he slid in there that I don't think anybody has known that 2023 season, he was getting fluid taken out of his knee the entire season.
But all right, so when I talk going back,
to make excuses, I'm just saying like maybe the knee is a
long-term
issue.
It could be maybe. I'll apologize for calling you lazy, but it doesn't change the fact that the Falcons should not be re-signing this man. And if you don't think you're going to re-sign him, whether he has a good year or a bad year, because if he has a good year, he's going to be a crazy expensive. And can you really hand a huge contract to Kyle Pittz after the inconsistent first contract? I don't think you can do that. So at this point, if I'm getting a 5th round pick, I don't think that's enough. I'll roll the dice. I'll just take the season that he's going to have. But if you give me a 3rd or a 2nd, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
4th, I'm considering.
That's a pipe dream because he costs $11 million this year. And like a team is going to have to acquire that fully guaranteed contract. So a team is going to have to go $11 million plus draft compensation. We better get 1,200 yards. And like, is he going to give you that? I don't know. So I think he's in any scenario, Kyle Pittz is most valuable in Atlanta. Like, we don't give him away. We're not just giving him away. That's stupid. Like best case scenario is he balls out, 1,000 yards this season. And we say, thank you.
That's best case scenario or worst case scenario.
And we get a compensatory pick.
Then we hand him, a $60 million contract and the injuries pop up again. And yeah, that's what scares me. And that's why I think
it's pretty.
Let's just avoid that mistake altogether and just move.
It's a pipe dream. I don't think it's going to happen.
And just move. Hey, it's interesting. I'd love to see Kyle Pittz have a successful season, but you know where I stand on this. I'm out on the Kyle Pittz train. He has done me too wrong. A report from Sam Amico of Hoops Wire says that even though the Hawks do not have a president of basketball operations, there have already been discussions internally among the ownership group about targeting Kevin Durant, throwing their hat into the ring of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. And boy, have we seen this before. It doesn't matter if we have a president of basketball operations. It doesn't matter if we have a new GM. We know who is calling the shots in Atlanta. And if they want KD, they might overpay for him because they just did it with DeJounte Murray. And you'd hope that they would learn from their transgressions and their mistakes. But when you have people that are fans before they are general managers or anything associated with basketball minds, this is the kind of moves that you get and the kind of reports that you get. So it would not shock me at all if the Hawks made an outrageous offer for Kevin Durant, one that would set this organization back and untie all of the good that we've done over the last several years.
But
it would be fun, though.
Reports came out that the asking price is not as high as I think publicly or internally people expected because the Suns wanted something and obviously did not get the kind of feedback that they enjoyed. And so they lowered the asking price. So I think if you want to compare the two, I'm much more open to the idea of the Hawks trading for Kevin Durant than Giannis because it's not that like you trade for Giannis and there's a chance that this thing completely unravels right in front of your face because he walks out of the door in 2 years, whereas KD is older. Like KD comes to Atlanta, he is going to walk out of the room in two years. You know that. A year. You know that. That's already happening. So your only real worry is what you're just giving up. Whereas like Giannis is like, there's the unknown of like you get Kawhi Leonard where, Toronto was okay gambling, knowing that Kawhi is not going to re-sign. And if you don't win a championship, if the Hawks don't win a championship in those couple of years with Giannis, you're going to be completely screwed. Like I am okay protecting the house a little bit and shortening that, championship window with KD. Plus, I like KD more.
See, I think Kevin Durant is more comparable to Kawhi in the fact that they're on 1-year deals, and it would be a one-off. With Giannis, you at least have 2 years, and I just think Giannis, there's at least a chance of Giannis staying if things work out. Plus, I just think Giannis, in terms of his defense and what he would bring to the Hawks and his fit with Trae Young, makes a lot of sense. I would like that more.
Fit?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis and Trae Young in the pick and roll is disgusting.
Yeah, that's just KD is the Slim Reaper. You put him on You put him on a court with 4 of me, and that guy is gonna get his.
I watched KD have a very talented team around him, and they couldn't even make the playoffs in the Western Conference.
Bradley Beal sucks.
And frankly, all right. So here's my thing with KD. Like, what would you even like with Giannis? We've done the hypotheticals. Like we've done the Jalen Johnson.
I don't think it would take that much.
I think it would take a lot. I think what you're thinking is not that much. Is probably it. What would you? All right. So what would your trade package look like? And I'll tell you if I think it's feasible. Like that's what.
Well, we don't know what the Suns are looking for in terms of that. I think you center around Zachary Rizier and
you would trade Zachary Rizier for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, first and a couple of first round picks. Yeah,
if that's all it took, I would probably do that. But I'd also understand if someone was hesitant.
I would include Onyeka Okongwu.
I'll tell you who I'm not trading. I wouldn't trade Dyson Daniels.
Well, I am understanding of like. The list of untouchables is 1A, 1B.
Would you trade Jalen Johnson?
No. I'm higher on Jalen Johnson than you and maybe a lot of other people that I think Jalen Johnson can be a Robin. I really do think Jalen Johnson can be a Robin. The only concern I have with Jalen is injuries.
Well, I think that's a big concern, though.
It is a big concern.
Yeah. The thing is, I know that there's been rumors that it's lower, but I think the initial asking price was probably astronomical. So the Phoenix Suns just got but I still think, to me, I think
there's no way it's close to Giannis.
No. I don't think it would be. I think it's just one of your stars.
Rizier. Take Rizier.
Yeah, but is Rizier? I don't know if
Rizier and OO and a first
if
round
they would
pick.
trade, if they said, if I think this is what I hypothetically would think it would take. I definitely think it would take.
Too.
I definitely think it would take one of Jalen Johnson or Dyson Daniels. Would you give up one of those guys? I don't think I would give up one of those guys.
No.
Only
because it's only 1 year.
Though.
It's only 1 year.
Don't get me wrong, it'd be fun, but I do think Dyson or Jalen Johnson would have to
You give up Rizier, you give up OO, a first round pick too, because those are useless, honestly. And we're rocking and rolling with KD, Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, if that's all it takes, I'm in. But I
think it's more.
I think it's Dyson.
It could be more. Maybe
I think
I'm
it's
crazy.
Dyson or Jalen Johnson. I think if they were,
I wouldn't do that.
If the Hawks are willing to part ways with one of those guys, I think they get KD. And frankly, they might. I mean, listen, we're talking from just guys that know a little bit more than the wrestlers, because we've seen we might not be GM level, but we're probably right in the middle of the wrestlers who are complete and total idiots, and then an actual NBA GM. So I have no idea what the hell they're going to do. They might overpay. They might throw Dyson Daniels or Jalen Johnson in there, and then that to me could be a disaster.
It could be a disaster, but I'll be going.
I'll
be at State Farm if KD is here.
You want to talk about ticket prices and stuff like that? That'll put butts in seats.
Yes,
it would be fun. It would be the most fun that we've had, but it would only be a year, and then we'd be like, why'd we do that? I have a feeling that's where you'd be at, but hell, at this point with the Hawks, why not? I mean, I'm so tired of us being 500. Give me KD. Throw away the future, whatever. Pacers and Thunders are in the finals, which everyone expected, right? Just two Midwest teams out there playing only 10 hours apart. That's got to be the shortest distance of a drive between the Eastern and Western Conference in the NBA Finals. I have to think that's pretty damn close. Whatever happens, we will have a first-time NBA champion. OKC is the heavy favorites. We're both high on the Pacers, but they look like they are meeting a genuine, immovable object. Alex, prediction time, as we always do in these last segments. Who's going to win, and by how, and in what games?
Gentlemen sweep. I don't want to just write off the Pacers getting swept because of what they've done. And I actually think it's going to be a very competitive gentleman sweep, which doesn't seem logical. But if you watch enough sports, you can tell these series are more competitive than maybe the final, series record states. And I think it'll be just that. I think the Pacers are going to surprise some people. But I think the Thunder just have too much firepower defensively. And I just think eventually, the Pacers are going to meet their match. And I think it's the Thunder who can go literally all the way down the lineup. Whoever you have for the Pacers, Thunder has have somebody. And then defensively, I mean, the Pacers are just going to have to play unbelievable because if the Thunder get hot, I mean, you on both ends of the court, they're the best team in basketball.
OKC's a jacked up version of the Pacers. And I think that it's just a very, very tough matchup. They won both of these games. I think when you look back at these playoffs, if you're a Pacers fan, you can go and say, hey, we were one game away from winning the NBA championship. And it's not because you're going to take this series to 7 games, but it's because I think if you had met Denver, you probably would have had a very, very good chance of winning this championship. But unfortunately, the OKC took care of business.
You don't have a chance.
And I agree. I just see this being they're just a juggernaut, man. And we thought coming into this postseason they were going to be a juggernaut. In the first 2 series, even against the Grizzlies, when Ja Morant was healthy on the road, they didn't look great, and they really didn't look great at times against the Nuggets. But against the Timberwolves. I think the way they were able to just overcome adversity and win that Game 7, the way that they were able to do it, just blowing them out of the building, gave them so much confidence. The Timberwolves had no chance. And now they're meeting a Pacers team that, while this is a great story, I mean, they're completely undermanned in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be really, really ugly.
But listen, I hope the Pacers can steal
I hope
one and make it interesting.
I hope more than anything, at least it's a competitive series, or competitive games. Like, I don't care how many games it goes to, just competitive games. I don't want to see the Pacers.
But this could be the start of something super special for the Thunder, because they are loaded for years and years with picks and young players,
and they deserve it.
And they have an unbelievable GM pulling the strings. But that wraps up our show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back with you tomorrow.